Hey everybody, Console Collector here. For today's video, I want to talk about a few games that are bad or unpopular that I really enjoy. When it comes to gaming, everyone has their own opinion, and just because most people think it's a bad game or it's an unpopular game doesn't mean it actually is. To me, a game is about how you enjoy it, and that's why in this video we're going to cover these games that I enjoy that most people don't like. First up is Silver Surfer for the original Nintendo. I feel like this game gets a lot of hate, and people say it's bad because of the Angry Video Game Nerds video on it. Now, I can say, yeah, this game is hard. It's completely justified that it's hard. It's one of the hardest games I've ever played and beaten. But is it bad? No way, not in my opinion. I actually love this game. The music is great, the game is fun, and the visuals are really nice for the NES. I really like this game. Just because the game is tough, and I mean dang tough, doesn't mean it's bad. It's just people need to give it a chance because it really is a fun game. It's a pattern learning game. Once you learn the stages and kind of figure out what to do, you can really enjoy this game like I did. But with that said, you are going to get defeated a lot. I mean a lot. Like I was dying every few seconds when I first started playing. Yeah, you can't touch anything. It's basically a shoot 'em up. Go within that mindset of repeat, repeat, repeat. How many shoot 'em ups do you know that are easy? Not many. So yes, the masses think Silver Surfer on the NES is bad, but I say give it a shot because it's one of my favorite NES games. Now we have Hey Pikmin on the Nintendo 3DS. The people who say this is a bad game honestly didn't give it a fair shot. I'm a huge fan of Pikmin. It's one of my favorite series of all time. Pikmin 1 on the GameCube is my favorite game of all time, and Hey Pikmin is a great entry in the series. Is it the best entry in the series? No, by all means it's not, but it's still a really fun, enjoyable game, and it feels like Pikmin. I had a blast with this game. The side-scrolling aspect of it is a bit of a learning curve, but once you figure it out, it's basically just like an old-school Pikmin game, like if it was to be on the Super Nintendo or something like that. Like, it's really well done, I love it, and I don't understand why people don't like Hey Pikmin. It's basically just a simplified version of Pikmin. All the aspects are there. You use Pikmin to get items, defeat enemies, get up different places you can't reach. It's just a 2D version of Pikmin. Now let's talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street for the NES. This game is made by LJN, and they are famous for having really bad early release games like on the NES. And most LJN games are terrible, but not all of them. LJN did make some good games in my opinion, and this is one of them. My favorite part about this game is the music. I think the music rocks in this game. It's awesome. The gameplay is really good. The visuals are nice. I like how you can go into different houses and explore. And it does feel like you're playing in a Nightmare on Elm Street game in 8-bit. It's also 4-player, which is crazy. I think this game was really well done. I actually had it when I was a kid, and I played this game way before I should have, but I loved it back then, and I love it now. I don't understand why people don't like it, especially the angry video game nerd. Like, his complaints I feel are unjust. This game is really good. It is a little bit challenging, but I've beaten it multiple times and I had a good time with it. It wasn't boring. I didn't have any problems figuring out what to do. It was just really enjoyable, especially when you can go to sleep and have the Night Warrior moves and stuff like that. Yeah, I think this is just a really great game. Now let's talk about Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the Nintendo Wii. I normally hate the Wii for its motion controls, but this one game is the exception. I think this game works really well on the Wii. I've played both the PSP version and the Wii version, and the one thing about the Wii version that I think is far superior is how your phone works through the Wiimote. I feel like that was a really cool addition in the Wii version, and it really gives you a sense of immersion in the game. When this game first came out, nobody really talked about it. It was kind of critically panned by a lot of people. It has been getting some popularity in the recent years, which is good because I feel like it's a really good game, but for the most part, people don't like this game. It's essentially a retelling of the original Silent Hill on PS1, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And I think they did a great job with this game. It's got nice horror aspects to it, it's really spooky. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great entry in the Silent Hill series. This game focuses more on the horror aspect and the suspense than actual combat, and I think that's a great entry for new fans to the Silent Hill series because there's not a lot of stress in it. It's more or less enjoying the story and enjoying the game. It's a great psychological Silent Hill game that I think everyone should give a chance. Batman Forever, specifically Batman Forever on the Super Nintendo. This game is considered one of the worst games ever and one of the worst movie tie-in games ever, and I completely disagree. Most people don't even like the movie, let alone the game. I, however, really like the Batman Forever movie. I remember the Batman Forever cereal. I remember having these McDonald's cups from Batman Forever. I liked everything Batman Forever. Even the toy line, all that stuff was really cool to me. Maybe it's the nostalgia talking, but I also like the game. I had the game when I was younger, and me and my brothers would play it, and we had a ton of fun with it. Now, is the game the best game in the world? No, there's definitely problems with it, but I don't think it's one of the worst games ever, like most people say. It's a fine game. I had fun with it. And again, with video games should be fun, and this game was fun to me. When I was a kid playing with my brothers, like sure, we didn't know what to do. We never beat the game. It was extremely hard. I remember we got super far in it where we got to fight Two-Face and the Riddler, but I don't think we ever beat it. Back then we thought the visuals were amazing, like graphics couldn't get any better. The characters in the game looked like the characters from the movie. It was really graphically impressive at the time. I've also picked this game up and beat it as an adult now, and I can say it held up pretty well. I really don't understand why it gets so much hate. Yeah, the controls are a bit weird, and it's hard to jump and grapple things, but overall it looks great. I find the beat 'em up aspect of it is fine. Like, I really don't have any complaints. I enjoy playing this game. I feel like this is a good example of don't listen to the masses. Give it a try for yourself. You can play it on the Genesis, the Super Nintendo, or even the Game Boy, which I don't recommend the Game Boy version, but yeah, I think just give it a try. Maybe you don't like it, right? Maybe you do. I just don't think it deserves all the hate it gets. I played a lot of movie and TV show tie-in video games, and I can comfortably say that this isn't one of the worst ones. It's actually one of the better ones, in my opinion. Now we have Noid for the original NES. Noid was a Domino's Pizza mascot back in the day, if you guys didn't know what this game was based on. I'm going to start off with saying I'm a little bit biased because I had this game as a kid and really liked it. We had a ton of fun with this game. A lot of people hate this game. Again, I don't understand why. It's a fine platformer with some cool puzzle aspects. Even the pizza eating contest is really cool. And now I'm speaking from adult me because yeah, I enjoyed it when I was a kid, but I also beat it when I was an adult. And it definitely wasn't as fun as I remember, but it's still a fine game, and I don't understand why it gets so much hate. It's actually a kind of unique game on the NES, and I think you guys should give it a try. How many other Domino's Pizza mascot games are there? Speaking of food mascots, now we have Chester Cheetah, Too Cool to Fool, which he is the Cheetos mascot from the 90s. Is he still around? I actually don't know. I think I've seen him on chips, but regardless, I don't think this is a bad game. This is another game I had when I was a kid, but we didn't get it new. This is one of those games that we picked up from a rental store when they were getting rid of their Super Nintendo games, and we got it really cheap. Is this the best game? No. Is it a terrible game? No. I think it's kind of down the middle. You're basically Chester Cheetah and you go around the city trying to rebuild your bike and get all the pieces for it. You know, it's a fine game. It's bright, colorful. The controls aren't terrible. It does have some really stupid things in it, like you pick up this guitar and that's your invincibility, but you can't walk around with it. You just play guitar and stay in this little area for a tiny bit. It's kind of useless, but yeah, it's not a horrible game. It's definitely not the best game. This is one of those games that's really good just to pick up and play for an hour or two. It's really short. You could probably beat it in that amount of time. It really stands out in the Super Nintendo library to me because it's a half-decent food tie-in game that is kind of fun to play. If you like 90s culture and Chester Cheetah, the Cheetos cat, I'd say give it a try. Now let's talk about Maximum Carnage for the Super Nintendo. Maximum Carnage was made by LJN, and again, they have a really bad rap. They have made some terrible games, but I think Maximum Carnage is one of their best games they ever released. It came out in the mid-90s when the Spider-Man animated cartoon from 94 was in full swing, and I love that show. And the fact that this game starred Venom, my favorite comic book character ever, and Carnage, I was really excited to rent it. Maximum Carnage is awesome to me. It's a really fun 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up where you get to play as Venom or Spider-Man, and you also get to face a different variety of villains and even see some appearances from characters like Captain America. This game was total Marvel fan overload back in the day when I was a kid. I've beaten Maximum Carnage on Super Nintendo and Genesis as an adult, and they're both still really great. The music's good, the graphics are good, the gameplay's fun. My only complaint with this game is it's not multiplayer. How do you have a beat 'em up, especially with Spider-Man and Venom, that isn't two-player? Definitely a missed opportunity, but they did end up adding two-player in Separation Anxiety for the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, which is still a decent Spider-Man game. I love the cover art, but I still feel like Maximum Carnage is the better game. Don't listen to the people that don't like this game simply because it's from LJN. You have to give it a try if you're a beat 'em up fan or a Spider-Man fan. You definitely want to play this one. Ghostbusters 2 on the original NES. It blows my mind that people don't like this game and say it's bad. This game is 1,000 times better than the original Ghostbusters, hands down. That's when you actually get to run around and get ghosts, shoot them, suck them up, you get to drive cars. Like, there's a nice variety in this game, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the Ghostbusters when I was a kid, and I remember when we got this game, I was super hyped because I'd played the first one by renting it, and that was trash. I hated the first one. I didn't even know what to do. But when I got this one, I'm like, now this is a good Ghostbusters game. Now, it's not the best Ghostbusters game. There's the one on the Sega Genesis that's way more superior, and obviously the modern Ghostbusters games are better. But yeah, for the time, I think Ghostbusters 2 was really fun and really awesome. And it's fairly short. I have beaten it as an adult. It still holds up pretty good in my opinion. I don't understand all the hate for it, just like many games on this list. Just give it a try. It's not a horrible game. It's worth playing. Let's talk about Bubsy. Not that crappy Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation 1. I'm talking about the original Bubsy on the Super Nintendo. This is not a bad game. I actually enjoyed it. It's got some really funny, quirky moments. It's a half-decent platformer. Really, I think this game gets a lot of hate based on the 3D version of Bubsy on the PS1, but if you go back and play the 2D ones, the 16-bit ones, whether it's on the Super Nintendo or the Genesis, or if you're fancy pants, you can play the Jaguar version, and you'll see these really aren't that bad. It's kind of a mix between Super Mario World and Sonic. It totally does the super speed from Sonic, rips that off completely. It's not the most original game, but again, it's really not that bad. There's actually a sequel in the 16-bit era as well for the Genesis and the Super Nintendo called Bubsy 2. I didn't enjoy it as much as the original Bubsy, just something about this Bubsy that's just quirky, and it has a lot of funny, clever names for stages. So if you had to play one, I would definitely play this one out of all of them. I'm going to talk about a Sega Saturn game now. This is Street Fighter, the movie, the game. This game is based on the Street Fighter movie from the mid-90s. It has all the likenesses of the actors from the movie. They are digitized into the game, and it actually doesn't look too bad. So, I enjoy this game, not because it's actually a good Street Fighter game. It's really not. The controls are fairly terrible, and it's super hard. I could never really get very far in it. It's not even that fun, but just something about it I enjoy. Games don't have to be perfect to be enjoyed, in my opinion. There are a lot of quote-unquote bad games that I enjoy, and this is one of them. It's just something about it just bites you, grips you into the game. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it's because I actually like the movie. It's like that cheesy goodness. How many games can you name that are based off a movie and the movie's based off a game? So it's a game based off a movie that's based off a game. Yeah, there's not many games like that. I would say give it a try just out of pure curiosity, if anything. There's not many games like this. It's very unique. I would have to say it's a guilty pleasure of mine on the Sega Saturn. It's time to talk about the Triforce of Crap. Yes, I'm talking about the 3 Zelda games for the CD-i. These games are so infamous now, there's not a lot I can say about them that you probably don't already know. These games are not great. Honestly, Link Faces of Evil and The Wand of Gamelon aren't terrible. They're playable. They're definitely horrible Zelda games, but in all things considered, they're not that bad. If anything, out of the Triforce of Crap, Zelda's Adventure is the worst, and it's the most expensive. That game is just no fun at all. It doesn't even look good. At least the other two have a cartoony style to them, and they somewhat resemble Zelda. If you're playing Zelda's Adventure, you don't even know it's a Zelda game. Zelda doesn't look like Zelda. It just looks like a generic game that they slapped the Zelda name onto. This is another example of games that I don't personally enjoy and want to play every day, but it's really fun to get friends to try these games. And that's the thing about bad games. Sometimes it's just great to watch your friends suffer with these bad games, and I always have a great time watching my friends play these games. This is Smart Ball for the Super Nintendo. Have you heard of it? I bet you haven't. This game is really obscure, and I would call it a hidden gem on the Super Nintendo. Now, this isn't exactly a bad game. This is just an unknown game, and it suffers from a bad game title, in my opinion. If you see a game called Smart Ball when you were a kid, are you going to rent it? Even the cover looks kind of stupid. Like, who wants to play a game called Smart Ball when you got Super Mario World or Mario Kart or Zelda or Metroid, right? Why would you get Smart Ball? From what I've researched prior to doing this video, this game doesn't even really have bad reviews. It really has no reviews. It's just one of those games that flew under the radar. I wanted to include it because of the bad name. This game is actually known as Jerry Boy in Japan, which honestly probably would have been better than Smart Ball. That's such a weird name, Smart Ball. I only know about this game because we bought it from a video rental store when we were kids. It was a former rental, and it was like $2 or $3, I think, and we didn't have a lot of games, so we picked it up. And I'm really glad I did because I really liked this game as a kid. I'd go to school and ask my friends, have you guys played Smart Ball? And of course, nobody ever did. Even as an adult, I've talked to some of my gamer friends and asked, have you ever heard of Smart Ball? Have you played it? And nobody seems to have played this game. It's a really fun platformer with a great soundtrack. It looks really nice. It just suffers from a horrible name. That's why I wanted to include it on today's video. Now we're going to talk about the Spider-Man games on the PlayStation 1. These are based on the 1994 animated show, Spider-Man. So just like Smart Ball, these games aren't necessarily bad, they're just unpopular. I never hear anybody talk about them. There's so many great Spider-Man games out there, there's so many bad Spider-Man games out there, but yeah, I never hear people talk about these ones. And that's kind of odd to me because these are some of my favorite Spider-Man games ever. Graphically, they're okay. They're definitely that PS1 era, I'll tell you that much, but they're still playable. I love the story behind them, and I like all the references from the 94 animated show, so yeah, I really like these games. Not really bad, but unknown and unpopular. If you're a fan of Spider-Man, and especially the 1994 cartoon, you definitely should give these a try because they're really half-decent, semi-open world 3D adventure Spider-Man games. I'm going to talk about Action 52 for the NES now. This isn't just a bad game, it's 52 bad games packed into one. Now I have to say, some of the games on Action 52 are actually okay. Like, I don't mind Cheetah and its sequel Cheetah 2, which Cheetah 2 is not on Action 52, but I just want to give it a quick shout out. The Cheetah games are actually okay for what they are. They're definitely not great, they're not masterpieces, it's not something you're just chomping at the bit to play every day. I wanted to feature Action 52 in today's video because it is a bad game, but it's an entertaining bad game. You want to have a fun game night? Get some friends over, pop in Action 52, and get them to play some of these really just awful games. You'll laugh, you'll have fun. They're just so bad that it's funny and it's entertaining. I actually had my friend Valiant Thor over not too long ago, and we did a live stream of him playing all 52 games on Action 52 for the first time. That's the best thing about Action 52, is getting someone to play it that has never played it before. You really get to capture just the essence of the badness and the hilarity of them struggling to figure out what to do and how to get through these games. I have to say, Action 52 and the Cheetah games are probably some of my favorite bad games in my collection. Here we have Looney Tunes on the original Game Boy. There isn't a whole lot of information or reviews on this game, but from the few people I've talked to about it, they think it's just a generic, boring platformer on the Game Boy. And I disagree. This game's actually pretty fun. You get to play as different Looney Tunes, you have different attacks and stuff like that. This is a really good pick up and play kind of game on the go. Like a few other games on this list, I had this game as a kid, and I used to love popping my Game Boy, going in the car for a drive with my mom or something like that, and playing this game. And yeah, it was okay. I liked it. I've beaten it as an adult as well. It's a really just simple, half-decent platformer. I don't know why it's so unpopular and people don't really like it, but I think it's worth a play. It's a really good Looney Tunes game, in my opinion. Better than some of the Bugs Bunny games on the NES. It's time for Dark Castle on the CD-i. One of the worst games I've ever played in my entire life. So if it's that bad, why do I have it? Well, kind of like Action 52, this is such a funny game to get your friends to play. This game is such a disaster, such a mess. It's just awesome to watch friends play for the first time and struggle. This really is a bad game. It's horrible. There's nothing redeeming about it. This game is literal trash. It is just so bad. Controls are bad, graphics are bad, sound is bad. And when I say controls are bad, you can't even really control this game. Like, it's almost unplayable because the controls are just so bad. But again, the best thing about Dark Castle on the CD-i is handing that controller over to one of your friends and just telling them, go ahead, give it a play. And watching them suffer is just pure entertainment that you can't put a price on. This is Mega Man and Bass for the Game Boy Advance. An unpopular Mega Man game? Yeah, that's crazy, right? Everybody loves Mega Man. Well, a lot of people don't like Mega Man and Bass. And again, I'm confused why, because I actually enjoy this game. It plays in the similar graphical style of Mega Man 7 and Mega Man X, and I enjoyed it. I like playing as Mega Man and Bass. I thought the levels were okay. You know, it's not the best Mega Man game, but again, it doesn't get a lot of great reviews, and I'm confused why, because it's a really half-decent Mega Man game on the Game Boy Advance. This is Plumbers Don't Wear Ties for the Panasonic 3DO. This, quote, game, unquote, is almost not even a game. It's like an interactive movie, but it's not even a movie. It's just like pictures, a slideshow, really. I put this game on one time for a game night, and a group of us played it together, and the look of confusion on everybody's face was so hilarious. We had guys and girls over that night, and everybody just looked horrified at what they were looking at on the screen. This is one of those games that's so bad it's good. Again, just for the simple entertainment value of watching people play it with the look of confusion on their face. I heard a rumor a couple years ago that Plumbers Don't Wear Ties was getting ported to the Switch. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I kind of hope it happens, because then a whole new generation can experience this wacky, stupid, bad game. I'm going to talk about Star Fox Assault now for the Nintendo GameCube. If you're a big GameCube fan like myself, you may be thinking, this isn't a bad game. Not at all. This is actually one of my favorite Star Fox games of all time. But with that said, not everybody else agrees with that. Half the people that I've talked to in the gaming community that aren't that much into GameCube don't even know this game exists. When you say Star Fox on GameCube, they all think of Star Fox Adventures. When I tell other people that there's a Star Fox Assault game, which is more of a traditional Star Fox on the GameCube, they're like, really? I had no idea. So I'm basically putting this under the category of unpopular, not bad, because this game is awesome. I just wanted to mention it to get some light shined on it, because yeah, there is a good Star Fox game on the GameCube, just nobody ever talks about it. It really is a traditional Star Fox game. I would like to say it's a follow-up to Star Fox 64, because you get to go on the machines in the ground, you actually get out of your machines, you can run around, and you get to fly the ships, yeah. So if you want to play a Star Fox game on the GameCube, play this one. I'm going to talk about The Town with No Name for the Amiga CD32 and the CD-TV. Have you heard about this game? Do you recognize that cover? Well, maybe not. But this is the really cheesy interactive game that looks like it was done with Microsoft Paint. I've seen this game covered on YouTube over the years, and it's another one of those games that's so bad, it's good. And not necessarily a good game, but just good to play and experience, so you can brag about it and say, yeah, I played The Town with No Name. I've had some friends try it. I even did a live stream of this game many years ago on the channel, and it's just so funny how bad it is. Like, the confusion, like when you go and defeat one of the kids at the beginning if you pick the wrong option, just hilarious. Me and my friends were having a good time laughing about just how bad this game is. If you have any means of trying this game, it's one of those games that is almost historically bad, and you should try it just to say you've played The Town with No Name. Mort the Chicken on PlayStation 1. Honestly, this game is bad. It looks awful. It's really tough to control. It's a stupid concept, but it's another one of those games that I just enjoy for some reason. I like this bad game. I featured it a while back on my Games to Get PlayStation episode, and just recording footage for this game, I found myself playing 2-3 hours into it. I'm like, why am I playing this game? I'm playing Mort the Chicken. I just wanted a few minutes of footage to show for the video, and ended up playing it for so long. So yeah, it's one of those bad games that I enjoy. And again, it's more of a curiosity. Maybe you should just try it. It's a super cheap game. Who knows? Maybe you'll end up playing it as long as I did. We're just about to wrap up this video. I've got one more after this. But for right now, we're going to talk about Speed Kings for the Nintendo GameCube. This is another game that I would say is unpopular. You never hear anyone talk about it. It's not necessarily a bad game. It's just an unknown game. I've talked to a few collectors and gamers about it. And when you say, hey, what'd you think of Speed Kings on the GameCube? They're scratching their heads because they've never heard of it. This is actually a really decent motorcycle racing game on the GameCube. And I have to say the crashing in this game is hilarious. The way you ragdoll half the time and just have crazy explosions and crashes, it's really entertaining. That's what I really like about Speed Kings, is the crashes. When I play this game, I get a crazy mix of anxiety and adrenaline because I'm trying to avoid hitting anything, but I don't mind if I hit something because the crashes are so cool. Yeah, it's just fun to speed through the streets and try not to hit anything. It's like dodgeball, but with vehicles and a bike. And unlike dodgeball, the end result is ragdoll hilarity. If you can manage to find a copy of Speed Kings, give it a try and crash your bike, because I think you'll enjoy it. Last game for today's video, definitely not the least, is Days Gone for the PlayStation 4. If you watch a few videos of mine on this channel, you know how much I love Days Gone. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse sometimes with this game. I feature it a lot on this channel, but for good reason. Hear me out. When this game was released, it got terrible reviews. I remember watching some spoiler-free reviews when it launched, and people were complaining about how it's so generic, it's just another open-world game that we don't need, nothing makes it stand out, the story's really slow. People were just complaining about it, and that kind of upset me because I pre-ordered this game and I hadn't gotten it yet, and I was really hyped about it. The trailers looked really awesome. So when I finally got my pre-order copy in, I actually popped it in, played about 4 hours of it or so, and honestly, I wasn't engaged with it. It was a slow start, and I thought, oh, maybe the review's right. I was all hyped for this game, and it's no good. So I actually shelved it. It sat on the shelf for a good year, and still reviews were bad about it, and I just thought, well, it was a waste of money. It's one of those games that, you have buyer's remorse. So about a year and a half after it launched, I got really sick, and I was down for a week. And I wanted to pick up a game that I could play and just sink some time into. So I went ahead and played The Last of Us 1 again. Yeah, not Days Gone. And I beat that, and it was great. The Last of Us is awesome. And then I was feeling like, oh, I need something else. I got through The Last of Us too soon. And then I saw Days Gone sitting there, and I said, you know what? I'm going to give it another shot. That single decision was probably one of the best gaming decisions I ever made. So I popped it in, started playing, and again, it was so slow at the beginning. It was hard to get engaged with it. I was just dreading it for a little bit, and I almost gave up. But then I thought, you know what? I made it this far last time. I want to just keep pushing through. I like zombie games. I want to experience this game. I'd say around the 8-hour mark, this game started to pick up, and by the 10-hour mark, this thing was going full throttle, like it had a rocket attached to the bike. I couldn't believe how great this game suddenly got. It really was just like a switch. That really slow start into this action-packed, really engaging story point in the game. Like, wow, I was hooked. And I loved every minute from that point on. Like, I can't explain how great this game was. I was having so much fun, whether I was slaying zombies, engaging myself in the story. This game had a roller coaster of emotions. Like, just, wow, this game is amazing. And I'm pretty ashamed that at the beginning, I didn't give it a chance. I kind of let the reviews get to me, and that was my mistake. The launch of Days Gone and the bad reviews taught me a valuable lesson. When a new game comes out that I want to try, just play it for myself. Don't let the reviews get to me. So now I don't even look at reviews for games I want to play. I want to judge them for myself, because I feel like this game didn't get a fair chance when it launched. I have a sneaky suspicion that the people that reviewed this game when it launched didn't give it a fair shot. Judging from the reviews that I read, and I even go back and look at them now, I feel like they probably only played a couple of hours. They didn't get to that 8-hour, 10-hour mark like I did, where the game really took off. And that's why I'm really weary about those reviews now, because these people don't play through the whole games. They just give you like an initial review. And games like Days Gone, that are true masterpieces, that have slow starts, don't get a fair shot at a good review. I could ramble on and on and on about how good Days Gone is. I'm actually really excited because I've seen a lot of people starting to give this game a chance, and now I'm on groups and stuff like that and posts, and I see a lot of people showing love for Days Gone and even wanting a Days Gone 2 like myself. So yeah, that's good news. It's getting the love it deserves now. It's just too bad it didn't get that at the beginning when it really counted. The one thing I take from this whole debacle with Days Gone, again, like I mentioned, is give the games a fair shot for yourself. And sometimes big games like this, you can't get the full feel of the game in the first hour or two. You really got to invest time. Now on the flip side, I've invested 8-10 hours into some games and they're still bad. So it is a gamble, but Days Gone is one of the best games of all time in my opinion, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. I've actually beaten Days Gone 5 times now on different difficulties, 100% each time. So that just shows you how much I love this game. Days Gone is the prime example of don't judge a book by its cover or its reviews, because underneath all that bad, negative press, there could be a really beautiful masterpiece like Days Gone. So those are some games that are considered bad or unpopular that I enjoy. Do you agree with some of the games on this list? Are they actually half decent, or do you think they're just as bad as people say? Whether a game's considered good or bad, I find is subjective just to the person playing it. My advice when you want to play a game and you're watching reviews or videos like this, take it with a grain of salt, because again, it's more or less just people's opinions, not necessarily how you're going to feel about that game. Finally, are there any games that you enjoy that are considered bad or unpopular? Let us know in the comments below. Alright, that's going to wrap up today's video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate it. You can follow me on social media. The information is on screen now and in the description below. I want to thank everybody for watching. I am the Console Collector, and until the next video, happy gaming.